All right. I'm just giving everybody time to get settled in for meditation is what I'm really doing. Let's do it then. So just take in a deep breath and just blow it out or laugh or make a sound or whatever you want, just to let go, release. A lot of times the energies just get pent up or backed up inside of us, and sometimes you hear just breathe. Well, yeah, that's great for the physical, mental, emotional. So just do that. Just focus on our breath for a moment. Just begin to pay attention to your breath as it moves in and out of your lungs. And you can even deep breathe a few times if you would like, just to help the body relax. This just helps prepare that inner environment of the body, mind, and emotions. And if you haven't already, you can close your eyes just to let go of the outer distractions. And just bring your attention inwards and upwards to the seat of the soul, a place that resides above the eyebrows, in the center of the head and the forehead. As you continue holding your attention here, just keep breathing. But now, instead of being aware of the breath moving in and out your mouth or your nose, when you breathe in through that spiritualized center. Literally breathe in through that area we call the seat of the soul, the spiritual eye, that inner doorway. And as you breathe in, just see that light of spirit coming in through that spiritual doorway. So breathe in that light of loving, whether you see it as a golden white or that purple or blue. Just breathe it in. And of course, as you exhale, just notice how that moves in you and through you. Often it'll be like a waterfall where the light comes in from the top. As you breathe it in, and then as you exhale, just notice it as it pours through the body, just down through the neck, the torso, the arms and the hands, and down through the pelvis, the legs, and out your feet. So breathe in that light and breathe it out, so that eventually that breathing in and breathing out, that light becomes a river with no beginning or end, with no stopping and starting, but just a constant flow of loving as it washes in you and through you, as well as around you, in your aura, in your mind and your emotions and your imagination, even the unconscious and subconscious. Just open and invite the divine presence to live in you and through you completely and fully, just washing through every atom, every particle of your beingness on every level. If you don't see it, just feel it. Feel the sensations, the energies, the tingling, the pressures, the warmth or coolness, however you feel it. Just be open and vulnerable and just let it move. Or maybe you hear it as a sound, or even that high-pitched ringing in the ears, or a bell, or running water. any sounds of nature or music, as well as that still small voice that is truly that voice of God. And just notice how the body relaxes as you just become more and more receptive, receiving God's loving. Just continue receiving and opening more and more. If you're aware of any part inside of you or around you where it gets stagnant or stuck, just breathe the light through it. Literally breathe the light into it and breathe through it. So you fill it on the in-breath and you let it move through on the out-breath, so that the river of loving just fully encompasses, envelops, and embraces it. As you continue this process, breathing in, breathing out, we're going to chant the Anahu. You can do it out loud or silently within. I'm going to do it out loud myself. And even as I do it out loud, you're welcome to chant the Anahu on the in-breath, the Anai, on the in-breath, and the Hu on the out-breath. So as you breathe in Anai, and on the exhale, you chant the Hu. We're going to do that 3 times. So breathe in, Anai, and then Hu on the exhale. Breathe in, Anai, and on the exhale, breathe in, chanting Anai, and on the exhale, So just all silently within now, just breathing in on the Anai, and on the exhale, chanting the Hu inwardly. Just do that a few more times, silently within yourself. This way we're letting the sound and the light just fill us and wash through us, attuning every aspect, bringing it all in alignment with that inner light and sound of loving. And so just allow that to all come quiet now, as you let go of the focus on the breathing. And bring your attention back to the seat of the soul, just centered at the forehead, the top of the head area. Just allow the inner senses to become aware of that divine presence, whether you see it or hear it or feel it, or just know it. Just allow your attention to gather here. as you now direct your attention upwards into that inner sky, that inner region and space within. So just looking inwards and upwards, looking for the source of that inner light and sound, listening more deeply within. Just be aware of that door opening that allows you to gaze through to these inner spiritual spaces. But also with the door open, it allows you to travel outwards and into these inner regions. So to lay that pathway before us, just now begin loving God, sharing your loving with God. Whether you see that as a light coming directly from you, at the seat of your soul, and going in and through this door into the inner sky, directing it upwards towards God, towards that brightest light that may appear as a sun or a bright star. Just begin to share your loving with God. If you wish, you can continue chanting the Anahu so that you share your loving through your own inner lights, through chanting the sacred name, sharing that sound of God's loving. So just continue now, sharing that loving with God through the light and the sound, and through your inner knowing, through your inner being. And just allowing the radiant form of the Holy Spirit to be present with you, surrounding you and guiding you, assisting you on this journey of awakening and loving. For as you put forth your loving, you move your consciousness into that greater experience on this joyful journey of returning home to God. So just keep sharing your loving, seeing the light go before you, singing that song of loving. Moving towards God with that clear intention and awareness. For those that have the sacred name of initiation, you can begin chanting that inwardly as well. We're going to move into a time of silence so that you continue this inner sacred journey, continuing to love God, and also remembering at some point to once again open and receive God's loving for you, so that eventually it becomes just like the breathing in and breathing out, giving and receiving, allowing God to breathe you. So just begin to come more present at the seat of the soul once again. As you continue viewing to the inner spiritual sky, sharing your loving with God and receiving God's loving for you. Just once again now, breathe in that light and the sound from this inner region directly from God. Breathe it into your beingness, into your soul, and through your soul into your consciousness here. So that that light of loving from God through your soul just fills everything in the unconscious, the mind, the emotions, the imagination, and the body, bringing life and loving and liberation. So once again, just see that loving pouring down from above as a river, just beginning to fill you from head to toe and beyond the body itself. So just take a few more moments, breathing in and breathing out this light and sound once again, allowing yourself to be filled, to be present, to be in this loving, living this essence. For in truth, we are that living, loving essence of the Lord. When you're ready, you can open your eyes if you like. And wake up. Oh, wow. I guess it's that time of year. Spring cleaning. What is it? April showers, May flowers. Springtime, a time of renewal, rebirth. I think we covered that last time around Easter. And then, of course, there's always that letting go process, that clearing out, the spring cleaning. And I always find it, this is a time of year where I always like it. It's my favorite time of year, not just because it's birthday time, but I really do find it a time of letting go of the old and making room for the new. And it's funny because over the many years, especially in the 90s when I was moving around a lot, it's often this time of year that I would literally physically move, from one place to another. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't realize it until later in the 90s when I kind of observed my yearly patterns. I guess you could say it's like the changes of the seasons, that with the changes you start to see how things unfold in your life. And so for me, I paying attention to these cycles and how things would unfold in my life, even with the seasons. But I always noticed the biggest amount of change usually in the springtime, and then at some point right around this time, there's this transition that happened of the old starting to drop away, or me choosing to let it go, and then choosing into the new. And I always found it an overlapping of a transition, kind of like what we're in right now. We're about halfway through this process. We announced and talked about our last class with even the changes in ILM and the staff and everything. And, we're kind of midway through that. And it's, leading right up to the end of June. And that's often, what I find is those changes. And then I've seen it almost like a harvest. It's often in the spring that we plant, in the summer it grows, and in the fall we harvest, type of a thing. So it's even along those lines. And if you've heard us over the years, you've heard other spiritual teachers often give examples of the seasonal changes and try to relate a lot of the spiritual growth, the spiritual transformation to even the seasons and these changes in the plantings and the growth and the harvest, and then even the winter, of just what is it? It's a time of rest. But, it's just a matter as if we perceive it that way, but also participate with it so that we go with the flow. We hear these phrases, go with the flow, but we need to really pay attention to what that flow is at any given moment, because it can change in any moment, let alone seasonally or over periods of time, whether that's like over weeks and months, like I'm talking now with the seasons, or whether that's many year cycles of things. But there are these periods that these transitions take place. And so if we really pay attention with that in our meditation, just like that flow of how we are doing today in meditation with breathing in and breathing out, and really creating the space in ourselves for that river of loving to move in us and through us as a flow, just so it's flowing. Our job is to create the space or open up, invite it in, and do what we can to partake, to participate, to live into, and to merge into being with that flow itself. And so that's a lot of what we're doing in our life all around. And that's where a lot of us, I know, find our challenges. Is that like, okay, it's like, okay, Brian, that's all well and good in doing the meditation, and the LAF processes of letting go and forgiving and loving, accepting ourselves, acknowledging the truth of who we are, right? As an exercise that we're used to doing at an ILM if you've been around here. Well, what about now taking that from those exercises and processes we do and now really looking to see how we can live that not just day to day, but moment to moment, to truly live in the moment, to live and be that living, loving essence of the Lord that we are. That's what the meditation and all these exercises we do give us the opportunity to awaken to and to be. That's the inner work. When we do enough, I do it this way, enough of the inner work, well, what is enough? It's clearing away enough of that which would block our awareness, block the flow, whatever that is that gets in the way. So when we do enough to remove it, to let it go, to open things up, that we can now really truly live in that flow, and then hold our awareness and attention at the seat of the soul so that we are always living in the moment of the here and the now spiritually, that as we really do that and learn to hold to that, that then we can now bring that even into our physical life, that we live that moment to moment even throughout the day, so that we constantly pay attention to this inner light, this inner sound, this inner movement of loving, so that as we follow that, well, a lot of times it is peace, be still. I mean, that's obviously ultimately the best place to be, especially during meditation. But if we can hold that place even during the day, or to take breaks during the day to recenter ourselves, to come present at the seat of the soul again and into our soul itself, and to open and look for that movement of the river of loving and surrender to it, so now that it can come in and live us, breathe us, do us, so that now in our surrendering to that, the river moves us, even through our physical life, so that as we pay attention to that, then that flow can even now begin to work through the mind, through the unconscious and the mind, the emotions, imagination, body, so that we can follow it. Call it intuition, call it inner knowing, literally call it going with the flow. However that is, through every level, to allow ourselves to now move with it. But in order to do that, we've got to be willing to truly let go of all those conditions, expectations, reactions, resistances, those patterns and belief systems where we get stuck and we hold ourselves back. And that's really what it is. We hold ourselves back. I remember years ago when I was learning this, I had this inner experience where I saw the radiant form of the spiritual teacher in its assistance with those servants of God that work with the spiritual teacher, that they were moving down the road in this town, and they were moving very quickly. And in this particular experience in my beginning days, I was off in another room in a building, but their door was open, and I saw them going by, and I was with a friend talking. And when I saw them go by, I went, oh my God, I need to go with them. I need to be the one to go with them, because the Holy Spirit does not wait. The Holy Spirit gives the opportunity, but gives the freedom of choice. That it's up to us to go with the flow of the Holy Spirit, to respond to it in the moment. And it is our choice to do that. Or we can stay in our comfortableness, doing whatever we're doing, hanging out with our friends, doing whatever, how life can look so ordinary. And this is where we need to pay attention, because it's too easy to just, in a sense, get bogged down and just live life the way we've been living it. Because now it's the behavior, the pattern, the condition, rather than paying attention to that movement of the Holy Spirit. Now, in this inner experience, I was aware of this particularly because I was very conscientiously learning and doing exercises specifically for what we talk about here, what I share about now. So in this particular instance, I realized, so in inner experience, I said to my friend there, I said, I'm going, because that was my choice. I wanted God first, God only, go with the flow. So I literally was walking out the door and turned around to my friend and said, are you coming? And my friend chose not to. He chose to stay there and just continue doing what he was doing. But I left, and I went with the group, with the spiritual entourage, so to speak. In other words, those souls, those initiates that are choosing to really follow the Holy Spirit and move with it as it moves. And so I have learned to do that to this day, to move with it, however it moves, no matter how hard it is. Just like you heard what we announced last month in ILM. It's hard, it's challenging, but we all need to move forward in whatever ways we need to do that individually, let alone in the group. But we need to make those choices for ourselves, however that flow and how that movement of the radiant form is directing and guiding us. To make the choice to go with that, regardless of what we're leaving behind or who we're leaving behind. In truth, we never leave anybody behind. It may look like it. The truth is, everybody has the opportunity. It's just a matter of when they're going to choose to go with that. And when they do, well, that's where we're all one. But sometimes we get to make a choice at a certain time and to go with that. And it could be a while before that opportunity comes around again. Right? How many times did we not make a choice that we knew would probably be good for us and life-changing, but we were too scared, or for some reason we held back, and then we missed the opportunity, right? We've all heard the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Well, really, we've got many opportunities every lifetime, but that once-in-a-lifetime may be one thing, but it keeps coming back around. But it may be a while before it comes around again. So do you want to take that opportunity now and move with it now? Or do you want to wait and hold back and just keep working through your karmas, in a sense, going nowhere, just churning it, and wait till it comes back around? And sometimes that's good 7 years. Not uncommon for 7 years for these opportunities to come around. And it can be many different time cycles. But these major opportunities often can be like 7-year periods. Do you really want to wait that long if you've got an opportunity right now? Wouldn't you rather go with the flow, go with the Holy Spirit now? so your life can truly transform and change, and you can move forward in your greater freedom and liberation like you've been wanting and wishing? Or are you going to be one who's going to sit back and just observe because you're too scared to take action, to make those choices, because you don't know what comes with it? Well, this is what we all have to work with, what we all have to go through. You can call it being lazy if you want. You can call it being scared. You can be called unknowing, confusion, doubt, wonder, fear. I don't care what you call it. We all have our reasons or excuses, again, whatever you want to call it. But that doesn't change the fact when there really is that opportunity now to let go and let God and to move and allow the changes in your life, to allow now the Holy Spirit to not only come in you and through you, but now you choose to go with God, not expecting God to do it for you, not expecting God to bring you, but you taking the responsibility to bring yourself with God. Whatever that movement is, obviously that is always spiritually, first and foremost, no question. But, I don't want to say but, I should say and, that movement spiritually can have its reflective process now down through the minds, emotions, imagination, and body. In other words, our belief systems and our thoughts can change. Our emotions can change. We may let go of all these old hurt patterns and now we find more joy and happiness inside, or peace from all the drama. The imagination, we start getting different fantasies or ideas, or we get really creative and start literally visualizing different things than what we have before because something opened up and a new was coming forward in that movement of spirit. And that even physically, we begin to make different choices and do things. Literally, if it's just doing something different in our day-to-day, or making a big change, like a move to a different place, a different relationship, a different job, a different whatever. It can be on every single level, and it sometimes is. And then it's obviously hard to miss the changes that are going on and the choices we make. And that's a lot of what most of us are looking for. But some of us don't want all the change. We hate change, we avoid change, we fear change. And so we're just hoping it'll be all spiritual, hoping God will do it for us. But what if God is bringing us along because we have chosen God, but also God is saying, okay, now for the fullness of this now to be completed, you now need to also make a physical change. You need to let go of certain things and allow yourself to move forward now, even physically, in new ways. We need to pay attention to that and not play the games with ourselves, not kid ourselves, but also to really pay attention so now we don't go and try creating change and making change and then thinking that's spiritual. I mean, how many times, I know I have, how many times have you in your own life done spring cleaning, in other words, clearing out all this old junk, getting rid of it, right? Thinking and doing that we're getting rid of karma, but all we're doing is physically moving stuff and letting go. I've done that many times. And it didn't create the change I wanted in my life. That did make it easier because I did. When I moved so much, I didn't have all this stuff to carry around every time I had to move. It got easier and easier with a few boxes rather than a few truckloads. So, there's those trade-offs, obviously. So in other words, what I'm saying is to really look and make the choices spiritually and pay attention and make the choices through every level as you open up and allow that loving to move in you and through you to see how it changes your thoughts and belief systems, your inner emotional states, the things you fantasize about, your desires, the imagination, the creative imagination. And then even physically, what ideas you get. Maybe it's time. Maybe right now, physically even, what's going on in your life and our lives, even in the world, is one of those opportunities that has come around now in its time. Because maybe this opportunity has come around in the past and we didn't take it then. So maybe the opportunity is now to take. To not miss out this time. To really make the choices, make the changes so that we now can live into the new, experience that greater joy or freedom or peace we've truly been seeking after on every level. It's got to be God first, obviously. God first. And then what happens when we make God first? Well, God only now, in that choice, we make that choice of God on every level. Even physically. When we meditate, that is how we physically make God first. Say, I choose God, I'm choosing to meditate. Just like we do every class here. We start with a meditation. That is choosing God first. And then the God only part, well, what are we doing now when we share afterwards? We're literally now God first, God only. We're sharing that God essence, that loving of our experience. We're either giving or receiving. And it has to be a flow. Just like the breathing in, breathing out, there's got to be that flow. And we need to each individually partake in the flow to get the fullness of it all. Just like where I started with the seasons, about the planting, and then of course the growing, what? It needs sun, and we need to water, we need to give it whatever nutrition in the soil, fertilizer, and then the harvest so it can grow. And then the rest period. If we pay attention to the seasons, well, we have our inner seasons. And we need to pay attention to that, how it unfolds in each of us. And then as it does unfold, we make not only the choices, but then we have an understanding, oh, with this season, this is what comes with it, and this is what I need to do. This is a responsibility I need to take, and this is how I go about planting the seeds. And then when that's done and the season changes, like, oh, now I need to do something different. This is how I go about fertilizing, watering, trying to create so that it gets the most sunlight. And then when that season shifts, then it's like, oh, now it's time to harvest. So I need to do something different to reap the benefit, to reap the harvest. You know, the whole phrase is like, we reap what we sow. Well, yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Exactly. And then we need a break. We always need a break. Wintertime, okay. Time to relax. Go play in the snow. Or go surf the waves in Hawaii. So I hope you get what I'm saying. Look at this in yourself. Pay attention to those inner seasons that sometimes actually correspond even with the outer seasons. And see how you can participate. Like for me, I remember back in the 90s, especially the earlier 90s, when I started this, I was really into holistic health big time. That was like my main career type of thing. Not only the meditation, but I was doing a lot of the nutritional, at that time I was doing a lot of different cleansing type of stuff. So I found that when I'd move into spring is when I would often do a lot of my cleanses. Fast cleanses, taking all the different herbs and detox things, you know, cleansing out. Sometimes it'd be early spring or late winter. And sometimes when I do it, maybe like January, February or something. So I'd start that cleansing that time of year. And I found it just happened naturally. So I just paid attention to what my body was going through, and then I found a way to participate with it that way. And then after that, well, there's the cleanse, letting go. But now there's the refilling. Now that I've let go and cleared a lot now, what do I put back in? What do I fill myself with? Well, I'm talking about, physically, nutritionally and all, right? Well, isn't it the same that I'm talking about? I don't want to say spiritually, because really the Spirit fills us, but then with that Spirit filling us, what do we put inside? How many times have we heard, Jim, over the years, when you let something go, you've got to fill it up with loving now, with Spirit. If you don't, the old pattern's going to come back. All that stinking thinking, all the negativity, all the emotional drama and reaction, all the negative fantasies. When we let something go, we've got to replace it with something new, and hopefully better. That's exactly why we lay out, like go look at our laugh workbook. If you haven't done that for a while, go to the website, download it, read it, look at even the order how we laid it out. We lay these things out because there's an order to, like, the seasons, the letting go, the questions that get us to observe and pay attention, to take us through the process of what I'm describing now. So that as we let go of the old and the things that are creating the reactions, the negativity, those things that are karmically, you could say we're in reaction with, they're resisting and holding us back. We've got to do that inner work to name it, to claim it, to love, accept, and forgive it, to let it go. And then we've got to now fill it with something new. We call it statements of truth or positive affirmations. So now you fill it with loving. Spiritually, obviously you fill it with spirit, but as you allow yourself to fill with spirit, well then you want to start getting now the good thoughts. That's where the positive affirmations come in, or those statements of truth. The I am statements. I am loving, I am joyful. And you bring it into the emotions, imagination, and then you let your fantasies be one of loving, of accepting, of actions of service, of spirit. And then let your physical actions follow through. Just like coming and listening to the talks like this, doing your meditation, doing the laugh exercises, doing whatever programs and processes you can to really continue now waking up spiritually, healing these things of the past that have caused pain and separation, so that we move into that greater wholeness and oneness. Because it all starts within ourselves, and as we do it within ourselves, that's then where we'll begin to find ourselves now participating or integrating now more in a greater whole with other people, with the planet, with all these things they talk about, all these movements on the planet talking about oneness, doing good, bringing light and loving. Well, people often do it out of reaction, not even realizing that's what they say they want, but they're doing it out of some type of reaction that they're not healing in themselves. So when they go and promote these things in the world, it actually causes separation and pushes away the very thing they want. And that's just what all humanity does. But if you get what I'm sharing here, you do it on the inside. When you give it all to yourself and do the inner work, a natural process is that now to reflect outwardly. So instead of you trying to create change in the world and pushing it away, you will bring it to you, the change that you are seeking, because you are doing it within yourself. In other words, what I'm saying is what some people would call, manifesting your dreams, manifesting abundance, manifesting what you want. But a lot of times we think we have to go chase after it or somehow create it into the world. Then it's a push. What I'm talking about is really more of doing the inner work, and in doing the inner work, you actually draw to you. So the universe brings it to you, rather than you trying to seek it out. I remember we actually have a talk Jim did called Seek First the Kingdom of God, even though I know you've done that a lot. Well, what happens? Well, when we seek first the kingdom of God, what are we doing? We are moving towards God spiritually. Look at it like a pendulum. Your pendulum here is anchored in your soul, the string. That's one point. That point doesn't move. But the pendulum at the string and the weight, the ball of weight at the end that can swing back and forth, well, that's polarity. That's our consciousness down here in the physical. But spiritually, it's always one point, never moves. But that one point can change from its fulcrum or axis point, whatever you call it. Because right now, if it's seated here in the physical, well, it's still the soul. But as that soul goes towards God, well, guess what happens to that ball in that string? It's just one string. So the higher you go, the higher it lifts that string in the ball. So eventually what happens? The soul that is here in the physical, as it moves to the realms towards God, that ball isn't just swinging back and forth. Now it's beginning to lift up as it swings back and forth. And it gets smaller and smaller, because eventually as the soul returns to God, that last ball of karma, that's what that is, comes right to the seat of the soul. As the soul goes into God and gets anchored, the last ball of karma here comes right up to this point where now it can be released. Is this making sense, I hope? And as the soul comes down, that ball of karma goes right back down. Just like we have the seat of the soul, you could say we have a seat of the physical, where that pendulum now swings back and forth. But again, that back and forth gets smaller and smaller the higher we go until it comes to that one point, and then poof, it's done. It is no more. And that's when the soul literally drops the ball and chain, the anchor, the strings of attachment that it's holding on to, the karmic baggage. It's exactly what's happening. You hear us talk about when you get initiated, you anchor the soul through the different realms. Well, as you're anchoring the soul through the different realms, that ball dragging down here is going higher and higher and higher, because that ball is your karmas held, and it's being lifted so that you get the karmas worked off through every realm until it is done. And you are free and liberated. And then you move on and it's complete. And the last ball is the body. You just drop it and then you move on. That is literally how this process works, and it's that simple. We just get lost in all the details because of all the thoughts we have, all the feelings we have, all the creative imaginations and fantasies, and all the physical things we think we want to have, do, be, experience here. All those things we want to do and have and be here physically, that's letting you know where your karmas are. The desires you have here are your karmas. What are karmas? Learn lessons. So if you have a desire and you go and have and fulfill that, well, it is by having that experience you're going to learn the lessons that come with it. That's the whole idea. So once you have the experience, the desire goes away. When that desire goes away, it lets you know you have fulfilled the karma. That's a good thing. But then there's always another desire and another desire. That's right, there always is. Because if that pendulum and that anchor back here is just swinging back and forth, there's always going to be more. Until we in our consciousness now take that, is it called a fulcrum, or I don't remember the point. As we take that part in meditation now and lift it to these other realms and anchor ourselves there, well then this ball swinging back and forth karmically now where our karmas are will move higher and higher. So as we move from the physical down to the physical and the soul goes to the astral, well that ball's now going to move here microcosmically what? At the second chakra. If we go into the emotions, it's going to move up to the solar plexus. As we go into the mind, it's going to move up around the heart. As we go up into the unconscious, it's going to move around the throat. As we go now into the soul realm, it's going to start coming up here. And then as we go beyond it, of course, that's liberation. That's how this works. So there's the practicality of how this works. But we in our own lives, so that we don't get lost, they say the devil's in the details. Well, why? Because when we just focus on the details, we get distracted and lost in all of that. That's the devil of it all. It's not really a devil. It's just that when we get caught up in it and distracted by it, well, it's devilish to us, because in that caught up is where we go into disturbance. And then we have all the bad or negative experiences that we would call devilish or evil or bad or whatever you want to call it. And so in seeking the good, or in seeking God, just the seeking God and going to God automatically lifts it. And our journey to God is what changes all this below. Trying to change all this below doesn't change it. Well, it can, but we'll just get more of the same. It'll just look and sound different, but it's still the same thing. When you're seeking your soulmate and the love of your life, and then you found them, and then you end up separating and think, oh my God, but then you find your next soulmate and love of your life. Well, what the hell? I thought we were only supposed to have one. Right? But it happens over and over. Well, that's what I'm talking about. You've got a pattern, but it can play out through many different details or people or experiences. All we got to do is pay attention, and we'll see that in our own lives. And as we see that, then we can go, oh, it's not the different people or physical experiences. It's about the one pattern running in me that is being played out through all the details of all these different experiences. So then we start looking at the pattern. Go, oh, why am I seeking love in the world, my soulmate? Well, because I want to be loved and I want to have a place to share my love, right? Well, guess what we're doing in meditation with our true soulmate called our own soul? We are learning to love. In truth, we're beginning to love ourselves first. Love our soul, and our soul loving all these different aspects of self. And then as we wake up, the soul now loves God, and God loves the soul. As above, so below. As we love God and receive God's love here, well, guess what? Then we, the soul, are also now loving the me, myself, and I, and the me, myself, and I are starting to love the soul. It's a microcosm that is reflected in the macrocosm. God first, God only, through it all. It all starts here at the soul, though, the true you. From here, you love God, and the God in you loves everything else. So it all just expands every direction till we merge into the oneness where God is within all things. And we know ourselves as one with God in all things. But that takes place through the process I'm talking about, the seasons. So we learn the inner work. We do these things for that very reason, and why you hear us always in here talk about to do the inner work. The meditation is key, and then the LAF. It's key, or the keys to the kingdom. Because in working it all is how all the work now pays off or is fulfilled. And it is that fulfillment that we are really seeking, that we may not even realize, with every desire, everything we want to experience or have in this world is attempting to get that love that we are seeking within ourselves and with God. And if you realize that, well, one, you're going to make the choice and the attempt to answer by doing the inner work. You don't keep getting caught up in the devil and the details, let alone the devil in the details. But as you do, you're going to begin to see the game of all this. And just in seeing the game, that awareness now gives you the opportunity to make a different choice, to choose God now instead of the devil and the details, to choose God. And as you choose God, guess what? The details drop away. It just gets handled automatically as we choose God and move towards God, just like the pendulum swinging I told you about. As we move towards God, automatically the pendulum that's swinging is simply going to swing less, which means letting go of all the things we thought we wanted, all the details and the devil in it all. You go to God. All the other just drops away. The LAF and all those exercises that help us in the letting go and the dropping away of what the meditation is doing for us, and what we are doing in the meditation as we go to God. And as we go to God, well, what happens? Well, then God can fill us. Just like the meditation today, God fills us from head to toe and beyond. That's how we let go. That's how we cleanse. That's how we get liberated and free. Choose God and do that which is of God. And then as we do it, then God is going to move in us and through us and walk with us and do a lot of it for us. When we're doing God, God will do us. Because I know I'm trying to answer this in a way that hopefully it might sink in a little more, because I know a lot of people get confused when we say, well, you got to do the inner work, you've got to take responsibility, but then you hear us talk about how God will meditate you, God will breathe you, God will do it in you and through you. But you see, God does do that in you and through you as you do God by doing all these exercises and processes. That's how it works. It's actually one and the same. But it works a certain way, so we just have to learn how it works and work it. That's the secret in it all. That's the key in it all. And it's very practical. It's not even a secret. It seems like a secret when we don't know what to do, but once we learn what to do, it's not a secret anymore. And it's open and available for everybody. But we've got to seek after it. Seek first the kingdom of God. Well, and then all else will be added unto you, but a lot of people think, well, I'm going to seek God and then God's going to give me everything I want in this world. All else will be added unto me. That's what we often think. Well, maybe the all else that's to be added unto us maybe wasn't about the physical. Maybe that all else is about the spiritual that'll be added unto us as we seek God. So we need to also pay attention to how we perceive or interpret these spiritual principles or sayings, whether it's in the Bible or any scripture or somebody just making stuff up. We need to pay attention. Be careful. See how we're interpreting that. Don't just assume the way we think or the way we believe a certain quote doesn't necessarily make it right, or that really is the way that it was shared if it came truly out of a spiritual servant. So we need to really even evaluate and question and learn even the words, the teachings, the processes, so that we have a greater depth of understanding and how that can serve us, that as we work it, that it does serve us to the greatest benefit, rather than if we're just utilizing something, thinking it's going to give us something. Like, here's a good example for you. Years ago, back in the 90s, in another organization, which a lot of churches do, is all about tithing, right? Give 10% to God. Well, is it giving it to God? No, it's giving it to the church, that physical organization or person or people that you're attending the services, right? Well, that's a great outer service, don't get me wrong. Just like I say, we're open to donations. You want to start doing tithing 10% of your finances? Go right ahead. If that's a service that comes from your loving. But what I've seen a lot of other people do with that, as you know here, the way we interpret tithing to God is 10% of your day, called meditation. But in the world, which is where money's the king or the God here, obviously, tithe 10% of your finances, right? So you give that to church. Well, I also heard it, churches trying to promote it, saying, you give 10%, it'll be returned to you 10% or 100-fold or 1,000-fold even. I've heard it all. It keeps getting bigger. I'm sure it'll be 1,000,000-fold pretty soon. You know, inflation. It's kind of funny, isn't it? Well, so I thought, wow. So I got hooked. I'm like, all right, I definitely need more money. So I'm going to start tithing. I'm going to start tithing more than 10%, because if I give more, won't I get more back? Well, that's how I was thinking, and I know a lot of other people were thinking that way. The church made out well because I was giving all my money. But then when it didn't start coming back tenfold in the finances like I thought it was supposed to, I went bankrupt. I tithed so much, I didn't have any more to tithe, and it wasn't coming back like I was told it was going to come back. So eventually what? I gave more where I didn't have any more to give. And that's often where we run dry. We give too much. We think we're being of service, we're doing good, or we're doing it out of a place of, like I was just saying, well, I'm doing it not because I'm doing it for God, I'm doing it because of what I want to get back from God. In other words, we got to pay attention to what it is we're doing, where we're coming from, what are our intentions behind what we're doing. That's why in here, like I say, if you want to give 10% to us as a donation, as a place of loving and service, that is welcomed. But when it's done for these other reasons like I'm sharing today, that's where you'll hear us say, that's okay. Take care of yourself. Learn. Take care of yourself. Because I've done it the other way, where I ended up hurting myself. But that's what we do. That's how we learn, right? So pay attention to all that. It's not making any of it wrong. Believe me, at the time I made it wrong. I was pretty upset, of course, and quite a process to go through. But then what? LAF, love, accept, forgive. Heal, look, learn, love. Got so many little sayings. Yeah, the 3 L's. Look, learn, and love. LAF, love, accept, forgive. I've got some others too. That's why you hear Jim and I all the time say, pay attention. Well, not just to what is being shared with you outside of you, but pay attention to what you're doing inside of you with whatever you're and however you're interpreting what is outside of you. But especially pay attention to your own inner interpretations, your own inner responses or reactions. That action of self-study, we talk about meditation, self-study, and service, that action of self-study is so important because that's how we're going to learn, but in that learning is how we're going to be awakened to now greater loving, and then eventually understand the greater truth of all these teachings and the misconceptions, misconstruations, miscommunications of all of it as well. And that's the discernment that we'll all learn as we walk through these and have our own experience. I know a lot of us want to have the clarity, the clairvoyance, the intuition, so we can avoid all the hard lessons, and everything's always perfect and easy, and we get it right the first time and right away, and we always get it that way. Yeah, I know. I was trying to do that all the time too. And we have good streaks of where we get a lot right for a long time, and then all of a sudden everything goes bad for a long time. Then we question ourselves, what did I do wrong? I thought I was right on track, and now it seems like I'm off track. Not realizing maybe our off track is part of on track to learn, to grow, to now really fulfill these other karmas that we were avoiding. But instead we judge it. We judge ourselves thinking we did something wrong. That's why in here you're going to hear us say, well, love, accept, forgive. Don't look at it and judge it, but rather look at it and learn from it. And how do we learn? By loving it. We're going to judge. We're going to be upset. We're going to react. This is not a pathway of trying to stop that or avoiding that. This is a pathway of taking responsibility, looking and learning and loving and accepting and forgiving. And by all means, meditation, because meditation is the way by which we can lift up high enough to have the higher awareness, to have the greater understanding, to learn and to love it all. So I gave just a couple examples today. Look at those things in your life that have been your lessons, your learning opportunities. We joke around in some of the meetings we do in our website meetings, Kelsey and I and Tanya and some others, our web team. And we used to call them challenges or issues, at the website. And then when I said, well, maybe it's a learning opportunity. So that's the joke now. Instead of saying challenge or issue, where everybody gets upset and it's disturbing, upsetting. Now we say, oh, a learning opportunity. And then we all laugh. Well, isn't that a nice perspective to have? To look at things as a learning opportunity, that we laugh, LAF, right? And literally laughter, because it brings us freedom and joy because of how we're approaching it now from this different perspective, coming more out of the soul, rather than out of the mind, emotions, and body that always does a negative interpretation, where it's a downer, it's upsetting, it's disturbing. God, why? Why do I have to deal with this? When's it ever going to get better? Well, as soon as we come from the soul, it does get better, instantaneously better. That's another little tool or trick of the trade. Find little ways in the day-to-day living to open those doors and bring in some of the joy. As simple as like what I just said. Instead of calling things an issue or a challenge, look at it as a learning opportunity. Just a little shift. And if we hear the word opportunity, well, that's usually a good thing, right? Oh my God, there's an opportunity. God is giving me an opportunity. All I've got to be willing to do is to look and to learn. Well, and to love. Because the loving is always going to fulfill the opportunities there. In another way in the world, what is that called? Problem solving. There's a problem, what's the solution? But it does make a difference how we approach these things. But not to put it on others, to do it in ourselves. That's the whole taking responsibility, or if you read on our website, I put in parentheses under that in our core principles of ILM, I say accepting responsibility, accepting ownership for your thoughts and feelings, actions and reactions. That's one of the biggest keys, is we have to accept ownership for our thoughts and feelings and our actions and reactions. In other words, we've got to start taking the principles, the teachings, and start working it. See how we can work them. Give a different perspective, a different spin, a different twist, so it now starts to work for us and serve us. Because I hear people saying, well, I've done LAF, it doesn't work. Or they do it once and they think it's done. That's not how it works. And then people get upset because they didn't get the results. But that's not how it works. We never said that's how to work it or how it works. That's why I hope you're listening to what I'm saying now. If you're not getting the results, it's not because these things don't work. We know they work. You've got to find out how to work it so that it works for you. God works certain ways. You've got to get on board and understand and learn how God works. God's not going to work things the way you want. We've had people come to us expecting us to bring them God, and God's going to do it for them, and they want it a certain way. And people get mad at us, literally mad at us, and have walked away. Mad, and we're terrible people because we didn't bring and make God do for them the way they wanted it. It's wild. Well, yeah, isn't that why we pray? Because we want God to bring us and do for us the very things we're praying for? That's part of the learning. And when we find that doesn't work, do we blame God and blame the other people around us who taught us that, or we think this and that or whatever? Or do we say, okay, so it's not working the way that I wanted it or thought it was going to work. How about I start asking the questions and learn how it actually does work? Now you'll get somewhere when you approach it that way. That is up to us to do. And what I just said now comes back around to what I started with, that God will bring us the opportunities to really go with God. God will present that, but we have to now choose to go with God. God's not going to go with us. We have to choose to go with God. So, if you're listening, if you're watching this, whether it's right now in this moment or 10 years from now on our website or on YouTube, that opportunity and moment is right now, right here for you, whenever you watch or hear this. So are you choosing to go with God? Or do you really think God's supposed to go with you? Okay.
That's good. All right. Well, the one thing that's been very present for me the last several weeks now is a phrase that is a constant reminder to me of what I'm doing in meditation. In the Bible and in many other teachings on this pathway, there's a phrase, be still and know that I am God. And it really is the truth. We have to move into stillness in order to know, in order to experience, in order to come into a greater fullness of God. And for me, it's a constant reminder because I can allow, in many ways, the world to get in the way. My thoughts, my feelings, my wants, my needs, all of that will get in the way if I am not careful. Even though I've been doing this for so many years. So it's always nice to have something to remind us. Why am I sitting down to meditate? Why do I really want to spend the time doing this? Why is this important to me and not other things? For me, it is because when I was a child, I wanted to know God. I wanted to know and understand and live in that presence of God as much as I could. And that's still what drives me today to sit down in my meditation. My meditations are different today than they were when I was a child, but they are all the same, leading to the same, and that is God. That's where I came up with this phrase of God first and God only. And that served me very well, just as the whole thing of be still and know that I am God. God is all there is. Everything that exists, everything that has existed, and everything that will exist has come out of God. And it returns back to God ultimately. And that's what this whole pathway of meditation is about, is for us to find that way to return back to God, to return to the place from which we came, the creator of it all, the creator of our soul, the creator of our beingness, the creator of this adventure that we're living in, to return back and live in the fullness of it. David said that it's important to prepare a place for God to come and visit. And that's what we're doing every time we sit down to meditate. We are preparing a place for God to come and visit. Literally and truly, God dwells in the soul. God dwells at the seat of the soul. But if we don't prepare a place where God can be present with us and share with us, then we're not maybe going to be aware that God truly dwells within. But if we sit down and meditate every day, become still, become quiet, become focused, become awake and aware at the higher levels of being, then we will become aware of God, and God will be present in our life and in all that we do. We are to invite God in, and we are to prepare a place for God. And we are to prepare a place within ourselves where God can truly present itself, demonstrate itself, and live its presence within us. I know this to be true, and many of you do as well, that you have prepared a place where God can come and where you can truly experience God in your life. And once you have, you live life differently. You live from a different perspective. You're not living from the physical body and needs and wants and desires so much as you're living from that presence of loving here. And you're wanting to bring all that loving into everything you do, everything you say, wherever you go, whoever you're with. You're always bringing that loving present. And you do that for yourself. You do that so that your life is simpler and easier and more grace-filled. But it also brings blessing and grace to others around you as you do that. There are so many times I've been approached by people saying that they wanted what I have. And I would look around at my world, and I didn't have that much. And yet, they wanted what I have. And I began to realize more and more in talking with them that what they wanted was peace. What they wanted is a presence of loving inside themselves that they sensed in me, but they didn't know it for themselves and didn't know how to get it. And this is one reason why at the age of 18, I began to share about the inner pathway, the inner truth, the action of preparing a place for God to come and visit, for us to wake up and know God within us. And that's the simple truth that I have been sharing ever since then. It's the same truth that all the great teachers have taught. I remember I had a friend in high school who had read the Bible, he said, from cover to cover as a part of a church project. And he and several of his friends did just that. So I asked him, gosh, I've never really read the Bible that much. What did you learn from it? What did you gain? Because there's so much wisdom there, you must have gained some insight. And he looked at me and he said, no, you don't understand. I read the Bible from cover to cover, but I don't know anything that the Bible is really teaching or saying. I just read it as a class action. And I said, but you've gotten something out of it, reading it like that. And he said, if I did, I don't know that I did. And I said, what if you went back and read it with an intention of learning what it is that the Bible is trying to share with you? And he said, I don't know that I want to do that. I've got too much to do in the world. And I've got a lot of things that preoccupy my mind and my life. And I just don't know that I need one more thing to try to focus on and do. So I gave him a couple of the phrases that I had found in the Bible. I wrote them down, and I asked him to look and study those two phrases and let me know what he sees in that. And the first phrase was a statement in the book written by Paul, the apostle. And he said, as he was writing to his disciples in, I don't know where it was, Thessalonica or something, he said, in order to know God, you have to go into spirit. For God is of spirit. So to know God, you must go into spirit. And there you can know and worship God. And the other phrase was to be still and know that I am God. So he looked at me and he says, okay, I'll look at it. And a couple of weeks later, I went to him and I said, have you really focused or looked at those phrases I gave you? And he said, oh yeah, I did. And I said, well, what did you get out of it? And he said that I need to be still somehow, but I don't know how to be still. I'm always on the move. I'm always busy. I'm always running. I'm always thinking. I've always got things to do. And so I don't know really what that means and how to do that. And that's true for most of us. To really be still, to be quiet, to just be present in the moment. But that's what meditation is about. It's just about that. Be still. not to put anything in the world before that stillness, that quiet, that focus that you're holding to create a space where God can come in and be present. And it's interesting. I know the thing I found very early on, very, very early on as a child, that God is always present within me. That loving, that stillness, that quiet place is within me all the time. And God is ever there, sharing loving, sharing caring. It's just up to me to pay attention and to be aware. And I find quite often now, in my adult years, I've had to work at being still, work at being quiet, work at going in to that place where I've prepared a place for God so long ago, and to be present and aware in stillness of God within me. So many people think that we have to travel somewhere to find God, to go to this church, to go to this temple, to go to this sacred spot, to meet this sacred person. But God is within us. God is that which gives this body life. And God does not leave this body until the soul does. So why not find God here, present in this temple that we dwell in, that we live in, that we experience through? For God is all there is. Nothing would exist without God. And God is ever creating, manifesting to come to greater understanding of self, God's self, in this action of creating and loving. All that is was created in loving. Everything that exists was created in loving, including yourself. And if we can get in touch with that loving that we were created in, then our lives will truly change. And that's what meditation is about. That's why we ask you to just sit quietly, hold your attention at the seat of the soul, and share your loving with God, and open to receive God's loving. And that's it. That's really it. Meditation is just that. To share your loving with God and open to receive God's loving. And it's interesting what we will discover in just doing that. One, we don't know often what our loving is, if we even have loving. And so the first thing is to begin to realize that there's something inside of us called our loving, and that if we can share it, it's going to change our lives, because we will move more and more and live more and more in that action of loving than maybe we ever have before. So the action of giving loving to God and allowing God's loving in to you, for many, is an abstract thought. It's not real, it's not comprehensible, it's not doable. But I know for one that it's doable in so many ways. It just means giving yourself the opportunity and the time to awaken to what that really is. and to really discover for yourself that you're loving. You're a loving being. That who you are is God's loving essence. And all God wants is for you to share that loving essence with God, and God will share a loving essence with you. And that will bring fulfillment in a greater way than you could ever imagine. You could receive everything in this world that is desirable, wanted, needed, and still not feel or know or have the fulfillment that living in that flow of God's loving is. And living in the flow means giving and receiving and giving. It's a constant action of movement of that loving within you. I learned early on that it wasn't just something to do within myself, loving God within me, loving God of all creation, but it was also with my eyes open and going out into the world to do the world. It was loving God in everything, loving God in everyone, loving God in every place. And the more I could do that, the more I really became aware of God in all things. And I became aware of God in all things, being aware and sending loving to me. And I know for many it sounds like I'm a little off center somewhere, but in truth, I know the truth of things in my own experience. And I will focus and live through my own experience rather than what the world might say. So I know that if you will just spend the time each day doing what we've asked, doing what we've shared, spending time loving God and allowing God to love you, that is a way to prepare a place for God to come and really share itself with you in its fullness. For God is loving. God created your soul and all souls and all this creation in loving, out of a loving action. And it is that loving that will assist it in returning back into the fullness of God. And by doing the meditation that we do with the sacred name, we begin a great journey on that path of loving, of returning home from which we came. It's not a great escape out of here, though some people look at it as that we're trying to escape from something. Rather, it's a fulfillment. We came here to learn, to grow, to come into the greater understanding of who we are. And once we come into that, where we really begin to learn that we are, in a sense, the essence of God in manifestation, and that the essence of God now is ready to return home to God fulfilled, then it's not an escape. It's a continuation of the journey. It's a fulfillment of the journey. But when I say that, I also have to say that there really is no end to the journey. It just continues on and on and on. But the nice part of this is that we live in the fullness of God, in the oneness of God, and in that constant flow of God in a way that we can't live here. Because here we are living in separation. We are living in a physicality and a spirituality. And in that duality, we cannot have the fullness that is in spirit. But when we do go into spirit and live in the fulfillment of the giving and receiving with God in spirit, we see things quite differently. We see things in the oneness of God's purpose, God's action, and God's loving. And you'll begin to discover more and more of the simplicity of God's being and in God's doing. And God is being and doing within yourself. And that is found within meditation. So I can't say more to do in the world. I can say only spend time now more and more in meditation, letting go of the outer, waking up to the inner, living more in the inner and from the inner, and bring that loving out into this creation as well, so that this creation might know its true self better, which is God in all things. So it's a short sharing today, but I hope a meaningful one. It is for me a most meaningful one, and it's one that ever brings me back to the simplicity of this pathway, back to the simplicity of meditation, back to the simplicity of my own soul. And I hope that it will do the same for you. Okay. Simple but sweet. Just like a good chocolate cake.
All right. Wow. Well, we're a little bit ahead of schedule today, so why don't we take a 40-minute break, and we'll reconvene at 3:45, where we normally do 4. We'll do 3:45 today.
Yeah,
So
Central
we'll
Time.
Yeah. So again, 40 minutes from now, we'll reconvene 3:45, which is Central Time here. And during our break, of course, you're welcome to meditate or get up, move around, get a snack, or also on the break, we're going to have the slide up there, give you the email address for you to write in questions, if you have any, at info@ilm.org. Again, please, during the break is the time to write in the questions, because when we come back from break in 40 minutes, we'll jump right in and start sharing and answering the questions that people have. So if you've been one who's been afraid to ask a question, just go for it. Get past the fear, move that energy. It'll do wonders, and that's the other part. It's anonymous. Obviously, nobody knows your name, so you can, reveal your dark secrets and do whatever you want. I know I joke about that, but I really mean it too, because sometimes it helps to really just acknowledge whatever the fears we have running is, as well as it's time to ask questions to gain greater understanding, of what we're doing here in ILM. So
Just to move the energy in a new way can transform everything. It really can.
yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, we're gonna take a break, and we'll be back in 40 minutes, and we'll continue with Q&A. See you then.
Okay.
Okay, well, welcome back to Q&A.
That's right.
So first, sharing or Q&A. My repeating pattern in stepping up to God with it. Hello, beloved Brian, Jim, and Kelsey. Hearing you share, Brian, about repeating patterns was very helpful. I am voicing about my pattern for myself, to place myself and my pattern before Spirit with you all, that I may open myself more to receiving God fully into this area of my life. I have been working the last several months on a pattern I keep picking up with my mom. I know I do it all to myself. I have made great strides here in keeping still inside, doing LAF and being true to myself, but I still have an unconscious place somewhere that sometimes puts me back into an approach of sacrificing my inner self around my mom. Jim, you talked about being still and turning back to God. I know when I do this inside myself, when with mom, it works. So I wanted to place an intention with you and Spirit that I can be more aware and conscious when this pattern pulls at me, that I be still, chant my sacred tone within, and just be, and allow God to be with me in that moment. And love that neediness that I have that puts my energy out into the world around this, and mother myself through God's loving. I can see where this connects through layers in other areas of my life. Please share anything else you have on this that may assist me. I love you all so much and truly appreciate all you are to me and all that you do for me and with me in loving service.
Well, from what I'm hearing, you're really taking steps and actions, and you're paying attention to what works, but what doesn't work. And it's interesting. For me, I have found that sometimes things always work consistently if I just go to them. Other times they work sometimes and they don't work sometimes. And the key is work what works. And if it doesn't work by chance, it's most likely that your focus is off in how you're moving with it. And if you can realign the focus better, then you'll get back into that flow of balance and correctness again. But I have no other recommendations right off. Do you have anything that would?
The other part of it, just like we talked about the meditation and that, but also the LAF and the processes, the patterns that, there's a simple phrase, it's called pattern interrupt. And then when we observe and start to become more aware of these patterns, we all run. And some patterns really serve us well. Like you could say, well, my pattern of getting up every day and starting my day with meditation, that serves me well. It's a nice pattern. I'm addicted to it now. If I don't meditate in the morning, boy, I feel really off and I try to get to it as soon as I can. That's a good pattern. Or exercise or eating healthy or whatever positive, there's the good patterns. And then there's the patterns that, create the reactions, the disturbance, what we'd call the negative. And so it's first just observing, becoming aware of our patterns and seeing what serves us well and what doesn't. And when it doesn't serve us well, then it's just, again, making the simple choices of like, okay, so if I choose God first and God only, how can I change this pattern? And sometimes we have to dive deep into the process, like we, again, lay out in the LAF workbook. We go into love in the dark stuff. And that stuff usually comes about because there often is, there are conditions or belief systems or expectations the world, family, friends, teachers, bosses, whatever, put on us. And those things become obligations, rules, have-tos. And if we don't meet those, then of course there's the ramifications that come with that usually aren't pleasant. But also if we are meeting those, just call them general obligations, even if we are meeting those, if within ourselves we're just very disturbed and we're doing it because we feel like we have to, we're going to end up resenting whoever we feel that with. And again, this, whether you're the mother like you're describing here, or a father, or again, it can be a boss, a politician, it can be anybody. So it's those things where we often feel obligated or put upon that are where our lessons are, that are often challenging, or as I said earlier, the learning opportunities to kind of change that as a way to kind of lighten the mood around it. A good one around family, you know, and everybody has this, especially mother or father. That's why I've always said, if you can work through all your lessons you have, you know, through your mother and father, you're going to be liberated. And that's a way to keep it simple and to look at that. But it's always a lesson there. So to look at those things and to see, you know, how you can shift those, whether it's just an internal state through forgiveness, acceptance, and loving, or if there's outer action steps you can take. A good one that I actually did, and Mom, if you're listening and watching, which you are, I know, I'll share this because you know this one very well. So years ago, when I was practicing this, I came to a point where, one, is just getting harder to travel, because at the time, you know, my parents were in Michigan, I believe, at the time, maybe, and I was in Texas. So it's hard to travel, you know, like around a holiday, like especially like Christmas or Thanksgiving. It's, you know, it's standard in most families, a family reunion or get together and see whoever. This is usually a typical one for almost every family. That, you know, where it's an obligation. It's like, oh my God, if I don't go home for the holidays or go whatever, it's an obligation. Well, people's feelings are going to be hurt, let alone my own, but especially my mother or father or friends or whoever. You know, it can be anybody, but families is usually where it's the strongest. And so when we have an obligation going like that, I remember when, you know, I don't know what it was at the time in my life. It's too many years ago to remember. But I just remember feeling the obligation, like I should be going home for Christmas, and it wasn't in me to go anymore. But I could feel this pressure in me, like, well, I should, and if I don't, I'm not a good son. I'm going to upset my mom or my dad or my brothers or whoever, relatives. You know, so I had all that I had to confront in myself around obligation. And I remember the first year I didn't go home for Christmas was really hard. And I think, I don't remember, Mom, you'd have to speak for yourself. Feel free to write in if you want, info@island.org. You know, if it hurts your feelings or not, please forgive me if it did. I forgave myself. She's probably laughing right now. But I remember that first year not doing that. It was really scary and challenging and disturbing in a way in my own reactions, let alone, you know, whether my mom or any other family went through. And so that was hard. But after that first year, it's like, okay, we got through that and it's okay. And then the next year came around. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. And I could feel that again because I wasn't in a place again to do the travel, or again, it's so long ago I don't remember. I just remember the process that I felt that energy of obligation and my self-judgments like I should and all the reasons why. And then I didn't go that year either. And it was about half the reaction I'd had in the first time around. First time it was really hard. The second time, half as hard. And then the third year, it came around again, but by that time now I've had a couple times practice. You know, they always say in threes, it's always good. So the third time came around and it's like, I didn't feel the reaction in me. Like, you know what, it's okay now. Because it wasn't just about not going, like meeting an obligation. It was about all the inner work I did in myself to let that be okay, to move into acceptance, to do forgiveness, to love myself and love the other people. Because I always communicated as much as I could around all this, whether it's mom and dad or family. And so I do my inner work, but try to communicate outwardly as well, just to really help things do what I could to take responsibility and keep things balanced. And so in doing that, by the third year, I realized, wow, after doing this now a couple of years and all the work I'd done in myself and other communications as well, that by the time the third year came around, I was like, I didn't have the reaction. And I realized I'm free of whatever this energy is around obligation that happens, and I don't want to just say families, it happens everywhere in the world, just obligations in general, whenever you feel that energy, that I found I was free. And then from that point forward, it was just fine. To this day, it's fine, you know, getting together whenever I do. It doesn't have to be a holiday. It can be any time of the year. And so now when I visit, it's really joyful because I come from a place of freedom rather than a place of obligation. Oh, I need to go visit because I'm supposed to. So you guys know what I'm saying about obligation. It's that energy of obligation that is tied up with our fears, our judgments, all the things we don't want to deal with, but if we don't deal with it, it backs up on us. And then we find ourselves in resentment and disturbance. And then what will we do? We'll project that resentment and disturbance on the person or people that we are in reaction with that we feel obligated to. And I didn't want to have that with anybody, especially my mom or family. I didn't want to have that resentment or anything. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make an exercise of this, get myself free of the obligation so that I don't have any resentments or things I hold against anybody. So I did the work. In those couple of years, it was hard. But by the third year, I realized the freedom. So now when I go visit, it's out of freedom and out of real choice, not out of obligation like I need to or have to. But it's truly a freedom of choice because I want to. And then out of that, it's joyful, it's loving. I absolutely enjoy the experience now because it's not an obligation like, well, it's a holiday or this or that, it's a have to. So hopefully what I'm sharing, and hopefully, Mom, you experienced the same thing. I think you have from the conversations we've had over the years. But that literally was my process in that, and it was a good one. And it's a simple one that pretty much we all go through. But in doing that, the freedom to this day that I've experienced is what it's about. And I find when I can do that inner work and whatever I need to outwardly to break free of any kind of obligation or have tos, and then it's a choose to, because I didn't stop and say, well, I don't ever go visit now because I don't want to deal with it. It's like, no, I did the work, so I have a freedom. So now when I go and participate, it's out of a place of freedom, so there's real joy and loving there. Not out of obligation where then it builds resentment and againstness. You know, people want to get together for holidays, but it always ends up in a big family fight. I hear this all the time from people. The holidays are the worst for people because it's so terrible, because everybody does it obligation. That's the reason why I stopped doing it. And I see the whole world doing that. So now I'll just go and do it whenever. I don't care if it's a holiday or totally off season or anything. I do it whenever there's that movement and it's a joyful choice to participate. So hopefully in all that maybe that gives the person who wrote this email an idea of how to start to begin to approach whatever that is. Again, it doesn't matter if it's with their mom or anybody. It's what to look at and be willing to take some steps to begin to handle that, including outer actions. But ultimately, it comes down to the inner and whatever it takes to move into a place of freedom so we don't have that reaction. And replace the word obligation with whatever word you want. It's the same thing. I don't care if it's obligation, expectation, have to, judgment, should, fears. Doesn't matter what word you use, it's still the same type of a process. And utilizing it as a learning opportunity to move towards your freedom. And that way, when you do participate, it's really out of now you're choosing to. And then when you do it that way, it's truly an experience of loving and joy. That's what I have found in all of that. So I know it was kind of long, but hopefully I put enough details in there people can extract out of that for whatever their situation.
Wires crossed. Brian, I asked you in an email a couple weeks ago about getting my wires crossed. I'm not sure how this works spiritually, but most supplements that I try to take have the opposite effect of what they were intended for. Does this have anything to do with my going home process, or is it just a physical issue? You asked me to bring this up today. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, I did. Because there's two different things here. There's truly the physiology of the body that we all respond differently to different substances, whether they're nutritional, dietary, or otherwise. Our physiology is unique to ourselves, and it may respond the same as others, or it could be completely different than others. That doesn't mean your wires are crossed. That just means whatever protocol you're following that maybe works for somebody else obviously doesn't work for you. So that means you've got to go now discover what works for you. On that, I'm talking just purely the nutritional physiology right now. Different medications have different effects on people. Different foods have different effects. Like right now, for years, the rage has been mushrooms, right? Mushrooms are great for your immune system and all kinds of things. I can't touch mushrooms. I'm allergic to them. It's a majorly painful experience for me, so I can't do that. So just because mushrooms are supposed to be good, if I take them, hell yeah, it crosses my wires and doesn't produce a very good effect. So it's called be practical, especially when it comes to the physical things like that. So that's that type of wiring, if I understand what you're asking there. So be practical, go find what works for you, because obviously if something's not working just because it does for somebody else, what is that phrase? One man's whatever is another's poison type of a thing. It's like that. Now, the other crossing of wires, this is probably where I should actually let Jim talk. This crossing of wires that we were sharing here is something Jim explained years ago, and he put it up on a diagram on a board and easel. And that's really what was related here, not the question about the nutritional stuff you asked. So, but that's still true what I just shared with you. But this other part, though, is something Jim shared years ago. I don't remember the talk it's on, but basically Jim drew up on a diagram, and if you want to, I'll talk about it if you want me to, but otherwise I'll just lay out what the diagram is. But Jim, this is where Jim has said years ago, he put up a diagram, simple line and a cross, and on one side he would put thoughts, on the other side feelings. And you guys remember when Jim said, a feeling for every thought and a thought for every feeling. So Jim would list out different thoughts and different feelings, and if the thoughts and feelings did not line up, that's where Jim talked about the wires would get crossed, and that short circuiting is what basically almost creates, let alone causes, the ego, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Could you share more about that?
Well, yeah, so a lot of times we get misdefinitions for feelings or thoughts. And so it's very important for us to look and see what are our definitions for our feelings and for our thoughts. Because if they really don't line up and match inside of us, we're going to always feel short-circuited, cut off, not in alignment, not in the flow, and we want to be in that flow. So what I would do, and this is back when I was in my early teens probably, I would look at a word and get the definition for that word that I knew it as. Then I would look up the word and I would get the definition from Webster Dictionary and see if that matched more my thoughts or on what this word meant. Then I would look at the feeling and I would try to see, what does this word feel like to me? What does it cause in feelings to be stirred? And is it good feelings? Is it disturbing feelings? Is this a good thought? Is this a disturbing thought? And I would look to see if I was matched up. And a lot of times I found that it wasn't matched. I would have this thought and it caused disturbance in me, but I would have this feeling that felt way off course of disturbance. And or I would have a thought that was very off of, disturbing to me, but the feeling felt good. And so I realized I had some things I had to recalculate or reevaluate and see what really matched. A thought for every feeling, a feeling for every thought that does line up. So as I went through that, I redesigned the layout of my belief systems, my feelings and my thoughts. And in that action, I started to really find out that I gave a lot of power away because everything was short-circuited. And so nothing really worked. For instance, when I was young, and you've heard this many times before, I'm sure, but this is a very strong one for me. When I was young, my mother would get me dressed up to go out somewhere with them. And she would say, don't go outside, don't get dirty, just wait for us. And sure enough, I'd end up outside playing with my friends and getting dirty. And my mother would get upset with me and she said, now I've got to change you because we can't have you go out with dirt on your clothes. Well, later on, as I was growing up, I found that I was very cautious sometimes in certain environments so that I didn't get anything on my clothes, like water or something I was drinking would spill and maybe stain the shirt, or food would get on my shirt, or like where I worked, I would often have to pick up cans and carry them around of paint, and they would rub on me and I'd get dirt on them, my pants. And I found that that was very disturbing to me, but I couldn't figure out why. Why does that bother me so much? But yet it did. And so I would work very hard to get them cleaned, or on lunch I would even go change clothes sometimes, just so that was not the case. I wasn't having to carry it around all day long, but looking down and being upset. So finally one day I said, this doesn't make sense. I've got to find out what's going on. So I meditated on it, I looked at it, and finally I had a dream about this whole thing with my mother and telling me not to get dirty. And I could see how that had impacted me. And so I had this thought of being really nicely dressed and looking good, but this feeling of disturbance, that of stress about getting dirty, or if I got dirty, then I had to go change. I couldn't go out with these clothes on. So it was very interesting because I actually had to finally just confront that one day when I was going to a wedding. And when I was going to this wedding, I picked up a couple of people, and this one had a large gift that they wanted me to put in the trunk. So I went over and I picked up the gift, I put it in the trunk, I sat in the car, and my pants were covered in glitter. Well, that didn't look so good for me. I was really upset. I was disturbed by it. And I thought to myself I could drop them off real quick and go back home and change. And that was my intention at first. And then I realized, I'm going to get past this. I'm not going to let this win over me ever again. I'm going to just go to the wedding, have glitter on my pants, listen to people talk about it if they want to, and let that be okay. And it was strange because it was a big thing for me to walk in with my pants dirty, in the sense with glitter. And I can't even tell you what the little storms that were going on inside of me because of it. And I was so conscious, I was looking to see if people were looking and seeing the glitter on my pants. And, finally nobody really commented too much, a few people, but nothing much. And so I just relaxed. I thought, this isn't that big. People don't care. It's what I do to myself that is so disturbing. And so I found a way to balance it out. And I regained a thought for every feeling, a feeling for every thought, in the sense of, if in the thought thing I could look down and see that I have dirt on my pants, and just go into the feeling level and say, and that's okay. I don't feel disturbed. I'm not upset by it. I'm just going to live with it and continue on in my day. And I don't even know if you understand what I'm saying, if it makes a big statement, but it made a big statement for me in the sense of things really changed. And on that day, I understood more clearly what Spirit had told me, a feeling for every thought, a thought for every feeling, and having that balanced out. And oftentimes, we live short-circuited in our day. We have a thought over here and a feeling that doesn't match. And we've got to find out how to bring that all into alignment, because otherwise, all these wires get crossed, and that's where the ego comes out of, is energy shorting out inside of our consciousness. And our willfulness, our need, our desire, our angers, all that are created out of a short circuit of energies, of thoughts and feelings. For me, that's what I understood. And it really has worked. So I would just say, I hope that, I probably went on and on, but does that make sense? Is that it?
So now your feelings are on that sparkle and glitter?
Uh-huh. All sparkle and glitter.
So basically you're saying with that thought of getting dirty was associated with whatever emotional reaction around your mom's reaction, and then, because in the past I heard you share this where when she got upset somehow you associated that with something bad or something.
Yeah. That I had done something bad, that I wasn't a good boy, I disturbed my mom, upset her.
So even part of your process was even forgiving your own reaction and with her and all that, right?
Right.
So so the forgiveness was a way to uncross the wires.
Exactly.
Forgiveness was a way, in coming into acceptance, like you said, that it's okay, to me was a way to uncross the wires so that the thoughts and feelings could be in alignment now, like it's okay now if I get dirty.
Yeah.
And you don't associate getting dirty with getting yelled at or scolded or with feeling a bad person or doing something wrong type of a thing, right?
And I didn't have to live my mom's definition,
Okay.
because I didn't have to live in disturbance or concern about what I had done in the sense of how it affected her. I just had to look and see inside myself, what did I want to do with that? And not let somebody else influence my feelings and my reactions.
So I think that little bit helps to maybe finish off what we were just saying.
Okay.
Because he spills food on himself all the time now. It doesn't bother him like it used to. Once in a while, though, we should just sprinkle glitter on you. And
Well, that's
see how
why I
it
get
goes.
shirts like this, because it's harder to see. I think that spot's okay. That's designed in there.
My shirt ought to work well.
Yeah, really.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for writing in that. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, write in another email and a question around that to get greater understanding, but hopefully that answers.
And I don't remember which book it is now, The Knowing of God maybe, but there's a part in the book about feelings and thoughts and balancing that out.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think it's in there. I don't remember.
Did that make sense to you guys? Okay. So,
Yeah, it did.
cool.
It totally did.
Great.
I heard acceptance in there and forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's the way to uncross the wires. So
Yeah.
that's what because Jim gave, there's a lot of good detail.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure we added in there how to uncross the wires by doing the acceptance and forgiveness
Yeah.
and all that.
And it'll show up as a monthly focus, so don't worry about it.
Oh, good. Okay.
I took notes.
Awesome. Do you remember which talk that's on?
Which one? What?
It may not even be on one. I was actually at the workshop where
No,
you
no.
actually
I was at several talks you guys have done, and I know they were recorded
Okay.
about uncrossing your wires.
Cool, awesome,
So I'm sure it's somewhere on the website.
cool, all right.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Very.
And it's often misunderstood. That's why I appreciated how much you actually shared about it today, especially like the dictionary definitions and then all the others. So, because you've talked about those in different parts, but to tie them all together, that's why I want to make sure it was understandable.
And I remember probably in the last year listening to a talk way back in the beginning, because I remember thinking, and you start drawing on the board, and I remember thinking, God, I wish they had taken pictures of all of these
that's right.
drawings and added them to the talk. So I know in the earlier years it's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Okay,
Awesome.
sneezing. Achoo. Greetings to all. For a long time now, I've noticed when I have a spiritual aha moment after, I will sneeze 4 or 5 times. I do too, I will say. I can relate. Seems strange at first, but now I see it as a confirmation of the understanding I just had. My question is, am I seeing this correctly? Loving to all.
I would say if that's your observation and it lines up most of the time, if not all the time, that's a good observation. And it could be the sneezing is a release of energy that has been stored up and not been able to move, and you're just letting it go through a sneezing action.
Sounds good to me. That's a new one. That's funny. That's pretty good.
Well, I could speak to that because that happens to me a lot too.
Really?
And that's what lines up inside of me. Is like, oh, God's like, pay attention.
Yeah.
Don't forget this.
Awesome.
I see it as a pay attention. There's something here that I just released through the awareness.
That's good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Dear Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, and all, I don't have a question, which in itself is a small miracle. I just wanted to send my appreciation for today's sharing and the timelessness, and the timeliness of the messages. I am witnessing the transitioning of 2 souls fairly close to me, and being in God's loving is the only thing I know that can assist. My human side wants to help more and be the wisdom, being still, takes me within to where the ocean of love and mercy can guide the best action if needed. Hearing your voices is like a warm hug, and my human part needed to hear your words. Thank you so very much. In loving.
That's awesome. I mean, it's nice to hear that because, you know, there so many times on a physical level we think we need to take physical actions for people. Really, the greatest action we can do is the loving, which is totally not physical. And you can do that from any distance, and even if that who you're sharing the loving with is even in a body or not. That's the cool thing. Is the loving, there's literally no boundaries. And it's as simple as having a thought about somebody and then even loving that thought, but then beyond that, seeing the loving go to wherever they are, not even knowing where they are. It's just literally having that focus in ourselves and then loving whatever that is or whoever that is, and it'll go. It's pretty amazing, and the impact that can have. It can often be much greater than anything we can do physically. And if there is something we can do physically, well, if we can do it from that place of loving, well, then you cover all the bases. And that just fully empowers it all, obviously. And of course, we could go into a lot of other things with it, but I love this, the simplicity and practicality of this. It's nice to hear that.
Dear Jim and Brian, thank you so much, Brian, for your talk today. It answered a specific question I have been mulling over.
Good.
Particularly not getting stuck in the detail, but choose God instead, and the details will get handled. I'm clearing out a lot of old stuff, writings and letters from my past before I started on this path. A lot of this was angst and torment and very different from the place I'm in today. I started reading and getting into the old feelings, and then I got a grip on myself and realized what was happening. This is past, gone, and I don't want to resurrect the past. I put on the Hugh chant, or the Anahu chant, and invited God into doing the clearing with me. I took a quick view over what was what, and decided to keep some and let go of the rest. Your explanation of not getting stuck in the detail, follow the flow by leaving behind what is the world and taking me away from God and the truth of who I am. So thank you, Brian. It was a wonderful confirmation of what I'm trying to do, but was still unsure about on some level. I am so grateful. I have one question. Jim, you said that even when we go home, the journey never stops. When we move fully back into the heart of God, is there still a journey, or is it just a being? With much love and gratitude to you both and Kelsey.
Once we move back into the heart of God, it really is just being. I guess what I was trying to say is there's no end to the journey, the action. You don't merge into God and that's it. You merge into God and merge back into the true experience of who you really are in God and the doing that you're doing in God, which is loving. And so the journey continues, but it doesn't continue the way we would reference it down here.
Question from meditation. Hey Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, thanks for facilitating such a great space for everyone. During your sharing, I was still focusing on meditation, and at one point I felt this overwhelming pressure at the seat of my soul and started to feel these butterflies all over in my body and hearing a loud vibration as if it was all around me in the room. And I feel like I'm just being pulled from my body. Next thing I know, I start to see, I have a mask over my eyes and eyes are shut. And I'm in some sort of room and it's very bright with high ceilings. And before I could take notice to other details, I became overwhelmed with the sensations going on in my body. Like my heart felt like it was skipping a beat almost or something. And the butterflies were just so strong and I was pulled back. So I guess my question would be, how can I stay calm during these moments and let go of the feeling of my body? Thank you guys, much love.
That's totally cool.
Yeah, very good. Go ahead.
That's awesome. I love that. So a lot of those types of experiences, it was just a process for me. I literally had to consciously work on relaxing into and through the actual experience. Because when I would start to go into a spiritual experience like that, I would get excited. And that excitement would hold me back. So the next time I would have an experience like that, where I would normally have gotten excited in the past, I knew what that would produce pulling me back. So as soon as I would feel that where initially I want to get excited, right at that moment, I would just relax and stay focused at the seat of the soul and just relax and let myself be carried and move with the experience and see where it'd take me. And that's literally what I do to this day. I just relax, 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 and let it carry me. Now, once in a while, I found myself kind of like almost stuck in an in-between place. When I find myself in that, after I focus at the seat of the soul, I'll start chanting the sacred name. And then the power of the name would literally now move me through and beyond wherever I'd feel stuck. But I had to really focus. You literally have to have a one-pointed focus right through the center of the center of the center of the seat of the soul, no matter whether you're in the body or you're in another dimension or realm. Same place, same process, same sacred name, same loving, same point of reference. So just at the same time you're relaxing, you're focusing. And the more you in focus, you also relax. That's it. Literally, that's it. That's it. You try to do anything else, good luck. That's what I found out. Anything else I would do didn't work. Whenever I would do what I just shared, that's what always worked. You have anything else you'd add?
So if you don't understand exactly what he was saying, it's now time to experiment and find how you can relax into the flow, relax into the trust, trusting that God is in this process and that it's taking you into a greater experience and it's taking you into a better place, not to be fearful, not to be concerned, not to be protective. And so it's just a matter of finding how you do that. And so it may be going to the center of the center to begin to relax and move beyond it. And it may be something else that you do inside, but it is inside that you want to do it, that will help you just to move into a place that is relaxed, that is trusting, that is knowing, really knowing that this is God's action lifting you up higher into God's presence.
Mm-hmm. That's the best part.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey, birthday boys. Hey, Kels, Tanya, and all those other ILMers listening and watching. Guys, those are super awesome shirts you're wearing. I'd actually quite like Brian's one, but as a pair of funky pants. Happy belated birthdays.
Cool.
Also, I hope you had awesome cake.
Awesome cake.
I'm sharing a darker meditation experience. I have quite a few of these, and Brian is right. Just send those bad ones in, because it might just be the worst, best experience you're having. So I hope this helps, not just me, but others too. Meditation experience. Being tied to a metal slab and raped in meditation is a new kind of messed up. I'm used to mutilation, cannibalism, being boiled in hot oil, cracking and shattering into pieces, etc.
Wow, you're covering the bases.
But this is a whole new level of effed upness.
Well, good. A whole new experience. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Okay, so I'm being raped by a corpse's arm, fist first, whilst my rapist stands by watching with his dead eyes and lifeless body. His arm has been ripped off, and my former pastor, wearing a cloak, laughing a menacing laugh.
This is the story of the Attack of the Zombies.
Yeah.
It's a new horror movie on Netflix.
Brian tends to laugh at the more effed up it is. The more,
I do.
The more he laughs. So all you listen out there, this is normal.
It is. I've been through so many different things like this. This is why I laugh, because the more effed up and horrific it is, that's Lucifer just trying to create more fear in the consciousness to keep the soul attached to the mind and emotions in the body. That's all it is. That's why I laugh. Lucifer hates it when I laugh because laughter is a sign of freedom. And I'm doing that and sharing why I'm doing it now to support the action of getting free. And the more horrific it is, it's just the more this creation, which is Lucifer's domain, tries to create fear. And all we've got to do is let go of the fear and we're free. So go ahead with the details, but I just wanted to kind of interrupt with some laughter because a lot of people might take the situation as really terrible, and it's not. It's just part of the game. You just learn how to play the game and you laugh at it and you'll be free of it.
So as this is happening and the priest is laughing a menacing laugh, this ripped off arm carries on doing this with me with the corpse's ripped off arm, taunting me, teasing me, berating me, fucking sodomizing me. How do you just let go on that one? What am I supposed to be loving here? Who wants to give that to God? Do your worst. Really? Dead eyes that don't see me. How do you make eye contact to break away? A soul destroyer in a cloak that's hooded, not willing to look at me. I can't do this right now. I can't handle this one. It's all in the head. 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 It's not real this time. It's not. It's just karma. Just deal with it. How? I hate that you're both getting to me. You don't even exist anymore. Dis-a-fucking appear already. What do I do? What do I do? Help me, God. I just scream these words, help me, God. I scream and scream and scream louder and louder until I feel someone whisper in my ear, wake up. My head explodes and then I fall into a calming, pale, warm red haze, which strangely makes me feel like someone has plugged me into a lightning bolt. I came out of meditation feeling like static. Please excuse the wording. It was literally written in anger, but in letting go of anger, if that makes sense. Beautiful teachers. I seem to be going from one extreme level to the next. Here I am trying to love it, but it's scary at times. So what's the red haze all about? Thank you so much. I love you guys.
So it really doesn't matter what the details are. Eventually, you don't have to look in the eyes. You don't have to love it. You just have to surrender. That's it. I've had so many times I've been attacked with horrific things, and all I do is literally go ahead. You've got to move into a place of complete surrender, because believe it or not, that's what is going on, is that these negative forces are literally serving us and pushing us towards that place of complete surrender. We just have to go there. So the more scary it is, the more it's empowering you to surrender because of the power of the freedom that comes with surrendering. The stronger the fear, the stronger it is. In a sense, it's reflecting to you the power of spirit behind it. All we've done is believed or reacted to the image that is being presented to us. Because if you noticed through all of this, you should have been in major pain, crippled, killed, and died. None of that happened. None of that happened. That's the truth. That's the reality. At some point, you've got to acknowledge the truth and the reality of how you are and where you're at after this is all said and done, and not get caught up in the details. When you get caught up in the details, you go into reaction because you're believing it. If you take a step back and just look at the reality, this is what I did. For many years, I'd go through these things, and finally one day I went, every time I have these really horrible experiences, I always end up coming back to the body. I'm always okay. I'm alive, I'm not hurt, everything's fine, every single time. So after a few years of going through that, I went, then why do I need to keep being so upset and reacting to all this? The day I realized that is the day it all changed. Because I realized that's the illusion and what Lucifer does to create fear to keep the soul entrapped here. So once I came to the realization in body, the next time I had an out-of-body experience that is very real on those levels when you are there, that when this started approaching me again, is the day I went, go ahead, go do what you're going to do, but I know I can't die. Soon as I did that, it disappeared. In a second, it all disappeared, just gone. And I've been free ever since. And that's what I do anytime now those types of situations show up, which they do from time to time. I just do the same thing. Just go ahead, do what you're going to do. Because I know, see, in other words, surrendering means you don't buy into the fear. That's all this is. If you buy into the fear's got you. You're going to go through all these horrible experiences. As soon as you can let go of the fear, which is what surrender does, there's no energy that it can create the images with, so it all disappears. And that is literally what happens. But, so you asked how many times in there? That's how. You're just not going to do it until it happens enough and you finally come to the same conclusion I did and state the obvious, state the facts, state the truth. But if you keep claiming your reaction and how upset you are, well, you're making that your truth. Mm-hmm. At some point, you've got to let go of claiming all your reaction upset and start claiming the truth of after all that, you're fine, you're not hurt, everything's okay. When you start claiming that and making that more important than all the others, the day you'll get free. And then when it shows up again in your experience, you'll do the same thing I did. You'll literally have these things coming at you and you'll literally, in the experience, go ahead. I can't die. I can't be hurt. I can't be harmed. And that's really the truth. When you get to that point, which you're probably close now, that's when it'll all change. But until then, it'll keep happening until the day you really choose to do it differently. That's how it is for all of us. These things go on and on and on until all of a sudden we realize, in other words, when we realize we're waking up. When we wake up to the illusion that it is the day the illusion will truly disappear because you will be claiming the truth rather than claiming the illusion or your reaction to it for that matter. Anything else you want to add?
Well, remember, fear, disturbance, anger, it feeds the negative. And Lucifer, the negativity, is ever trying to create fear in us so that we go into disturbance, which is food for him. So why feed him and give him more power? Why not just stop feeding him, be neutral, just surrender and let the energy move past you? If they can't get a reaction out of you, they're going to go somewhere else because you're no fun and you're not food. So therefore, goodbye, we don't need you in our lives anymore, and they'll leave you alone.
As far as the red haze goes, more than likely that may be the essence of that energy, because red often is associated with blood. And a red haze, to me, is just the frequency or energy that a lot of this fear and these images can ride upon that feeds them. So stop feeding them. That, to me, is what that's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Pole dancing and practical. Howdy.
Howdy.
I've been meditating for 30 plus years. I think I spent the first 10 pulling sexual energy up from my root chakras, saying, I want the loving God, not the lusting. Today my mind, creative imagination, and body were of and running at start of Kelsey's meditation, seeing myself in sexual positions on the floor, flashbacks to movies I've seen, etc. Keep looking up and giving it to God. Then I see this beautiful silver pole next to me, so I start pole dancing playfully. Right after I start, I'm sucked up the pole at light speed by God through the darkness. Don't remember anything after that. Feedback?
That's pretty good. Do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
If anything, it's just showing you that as you let go of all these things, you're just automatically going to be rising upward toward God. That God's going to bring you home because you're not letting these things stand in the way. Sexual urges, sexual whatever, energy is going to be rising up in you at time because the body is the body, and the body does what the body does. And it's nothing wrong with it. And if we don't feed it and we don't just get distracted by it, it won't stop us on our path. And what it's showing you is by getting playful and dancing on the pole and whatever is a way for you just to relax, go into the energy, love it all, play with it, and then you give God the freedom to lift you up and take you home.
Amen to that. That's totally symbolic to me of saying whatever you did in your consciousness, to me that demonstrates just letting go.
Yeah.
And that's all we have to do. Once we, let go, let God, as soon as we do our part letting go, God will just like that, boom, move us, and that quick. That's a great example of what happened when we really let go inside of ourselves and how quick it is that God now will move us out of that and right on into whatever's next.
And now you're going to find that you'll begin to wake up into those higher levels and not go to sleep or go unconscious. So that's good. That's the next part of the journey, is now waking up in those higher places.
So instead of the silver cord, this person has a silver dance pole?
I guess so. It's silver, that's good.
Sorry, my bad humor.
Yeah.
Spirit uses what's right, going to work for each individual
Right,
soul.
the silver cord's a silver pole at the physical level.
There you go. So the practical is just a suggestion about money for ILM. So should we just discuss that as a staff, or do you want me to read it out here in Q&A?
You could go ahead and read it. We don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine putting that out there. I don't know. We're not going to have discussion right now because this is a time for sharing and Q&A.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's okay with me putting the information out there.
Okay. So this is a practical question to support ILM.
Okay.
I don't know technology or internet finance. I have heard from others that people with YouTube channels can become millionaires just from people watching in numbers. Being old school, I always go to the ILM website. Then I had a thought, would ILM get money for every class if we all choose YouTube instead of website? If this is true, and knowing there's a lot of us old-timers, not so tech people, maybe put a note next to the YouTube saying something about choosing YouTube automatically gives ILM a donation. Thank you so much for all your loving and all you do for all of us.
Thank you. Actually, that I appreciate the thought. And I could be wrong, but from what I understand, from what you're saying, if I remember from research we did when we actually set up the YouTube channel for ILM, I think you need a minimum of 1,000 subscriptions. And I think we're at 140 something now, so we got a long ways to go. But I think to monetize a channel also means that they start putting commercials in there.
In any way they want.
In any way they want. So they could interrupt like our talks and put whatever in there. So
Or our meditations.
yeah, so I don't think most of us would prefer to get commercials in the middle of a meditation, let alone a talk. So no, the thought is very much appreciated. And from what I understand though, probably is not going to work too well for us. And that's part of the reason why we encourage people really to go more to our website, just so you don't get bombarded with all that whatever on YouTube. YouTube to me is really just kind of a secondary backup and a way to put it out there for people to find us that just do social media that have no idea about our website. Since we don't advertise or market, our website or anything, it's just a way it could show up in, social engines and all that.
And also, we have a few people in other countries that are initiates, and
True.
they can get through YouTube a translation and know exactly what we're saying compared to trying to figure out what we're saying in English.
That's right. I forgot.
And so that's one reason why we did it, because of several people who requested it so that they could get translations.
Yeah. So, thank you, though. I appreciate that. Keep putting that energy out there. I mean, really, it supports all that.
Today's meditation. Hello, Jim, Brian, and Kelsey. I'm just curious about the visions I had during this morning's meditation. Thank you as always for all that you do. Christ was sitting in a calm pool of water, resting the right side of his face against a small rock. It was exquisitely peaceful. Then he vanished into the water. Then he reappeared in the same pool of water, and what looked like a small but frozen ocean wave appeared over his head. The wave was the same size as his head. It wasn't a normal size, ocean-sized wave. In the next scene, I saw what I knew were my legs, but they were really, really long and didn't look like human legs. They were standing on top of an ocean sand dune and pushed off the dune and took me flying, but I didn't see the rest of me, but I knew it was me. Then in the next vision, my face appeared full screen, and the left half was white and the right side was black. Then fairly swiftly, white overtook the black and my whole face became white. Next, I was floating up off the ground, being lifted up by a black umbrella with a black handle. Then the umbrella collapsed and I fell to the ground and dissolved into the earth. Then I reappeared from the earth and floated up in cross-legged pose, meditating, and was just hovering in the air in this serene place, and a fluorescent white ball of light was in my hands, and I lifted it up and inserted it into my head at the seat of the soul. And then meditation ended.
Very good. Well, the thing with the Christ in the water and disappearing and reappearing, to me, it's all about focus, paying attention, initiation, and meditation. And the reason I say that is because the wave over his head is a symbol of a spiritual teacher who initiates on this pathway. The Holy Spirit is the wave that comes in and scoops the soul and carries it back to the spiritual realms. And so that to me is saying that this is about initiation. This is about your liberation. This is about this pathway that you're going to see now. And then seeing herself or himself with a half white, half black face, and then it goes fully white, to me is showing that that's what this pathway is about, is becoming balanced, not caught up in polarity, not caught up in positive, negative, or the lower creation, but rather rising up above it and becoming one. And in the white, that's the spiritual soul. Anything else on that?
So the last part after that part about falling back and kind of like dissolving into the earth, to me that's about like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. that's about letting go of the physical aspects of the consciousness to return to the earth so that it sets the soul free. And to me, then you rising up out of that into that meditation, cross-legged type of thing is symbolic to me of now the soul meditating and rising above the earth, which is rising above the physical consciousness to really move into the greater, action of liberation. I mean, to me, the whole storyline, all of that, is the Christ, even though that literally can be even like Jesus as the spiritual teacher in their levels, it often is symbolic of our own soul awakening to the Christ consciousness in ourselves. And then the wave, as Jim said, is symbolic of the Holy Spirit or spiritual teacher as a wave coming and collecting those souls that are initiated to bring them back into the ocean of loving and to carry them out of the world and into the realms of spirit. And so I think throughout all these different experiences throughout here is to me very symbolic of really the pathway of a soul that's initiated and moving towards liberation, and even the white and black, the duality of the world, the polarity, and now being transformed, and that which is of the earth return to the earth, and that which is the spirit return to spirit. So it's definitely all these different parts of the experience to me definitely demonstrate that you're getting free and liberated.
That's good.
Did we miss anything? I think it covered most.
Yeah, she was floating, cross-legged pose, meditating, hovering with a fluorescent ball of light
Oh,
in her hand.
Oh, yes.
And then lifted it up and inserted it into
That's it.
the seat of the soul.
That's it. That ball of light is our own inner light, the divine spark that is our soul that came out of the realm of spirit. Now, to me, that's symbolic of putting that in, is saying now I am consciously choosing now my soul. Where the soul, in a sense, you could say the focus was placed out into the world, and now restoring that is saying, okay, now my focus is put back in God first, God only, the divine, living, loving essence of who I am. But in order to do that, we have to let go of all that which is the earth, so that now the soul is set free to now rise on up. So that's another really obviously powerful, demonstration of the whole action like we've already described, definitely.
Hi, Jim and Brian. Could you help me understand a dream?
Possibly.
I was at the edge of the ocean and standing near a building. I had to decide if I was going out in the water since I was afraid, but decided I need to do it. I was standing on something tall where I had to keep my balance and push towards the back since there was since there was little space and I could fall forward and off into the deep. I had a long paddle and slowly paddled forward towards a structure, and once I did that, then started to paddle back. I got stuck near the building's edge and started to float upwards towards the roof and had to gently pull myself back down to the water and paddle towards to landing area where I started. I can still feel some uneasiness recalling the dream. I think I was afraid of the deep water. Thank you to both of you and your awesome team. Missing you all.
Do you want to start?
no.
No? Okay. This is really well described because it often is a step-by-step process of getting past our fears and letting go to let the ocean carry us out. And to me, this dream experience is an example of that process of surrendering and letting go, or pushing off from the world to go into the ocean, but yet at the same time, the fear holds us back. And the deep water, it's a funny thing because the physical consciousness fears moving towards spirit. Because to the physical consciousness, that's death. To the soul, that's freedom and liberation. So the soul gets excited going out into the ocean where the physical consciousness doesn't. So that to me, kind of an example of almost the cross wires, but that's the karmas we work through in that struggle we have in our own physical consciousness, confronting the thoughts and feelings, the fears, the judgments, or whatever that holds us back, where that inner part of us that knows that we do want to go, just like they expressed wanting to go into the ocean. Because that inner part of us, the soul, knows that's the direction I want to go. And so to me, it's just showing you that you're in that in-between stage. And I did this, gosh, multiple times, very similar to what you're describing, where I'd go out just a little bit into the ocean, and I was scared to go deeper. I had to still touch and only waist deep. And then the ocean might even get a little choppy or bigger waves. And just many times I'd go out a little deeper until I had to swim and I couldn't touch the bottom. And so it was little by little getting past those fears until eventually the last one is just complete. And that's all we have to do, is that back and forth until it just is done. That's how all these things work. It's usually a back and forth, and in that we get comfortable with it. We start to get past the fears. We start to have greater understanding and acceptance of the process, of the fears, of that longing inside of us. And that's where the whole thing of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's often the process. Don't worry about it. It's just how it works. So let it be okay and realize you'll have more experiences like this, but each time it'll get easier because you'll remember, oh, this is familiar. This is kind of what I did last time, and I was okay. So there's nothing to fear. So I'm going to let myself go further than I did last time, and then you'll go further until you hit the next fear. And then the experience will stop. And then later on, you'll have another experience where you go, oh my God, this is familiar, and I'm okay. I'm going to let myself go further now. And you will. You'll just keep doing that until the fear's dead, gone, finished, and then you're off onto a whole other thing, whether it's going out into the ocean or now flying beyond it. In other words, however God's going to unfold it for you. And it's literally just a process. It's just a process. But in the processes where we're working through our karmas and really learning to do the loving, accepting, forgiving to the greatest extent that really is more of the spiritual nature rather than out of the mind trying to do it.
That's
Anything
good.
else you want to add?
No, that's very good.
Okay.
Meditation experience. Aloha, everyone. First off, I want to thank you guys for sharing in everything that you all do. Well, I have a question about an experience I had during my meditation today. And let me tell you, I've been doing this kind of meditation for a couple of months now through this path, and I know that this is a pivotal time in my life right now. So towards the end of the meditation, I was becoming deeper into this stillness, and as I was breathing in through my nose, when I felt a lack of oxygen, like a change in the air, harder to breathe, but only in that moment. And right after that, I felt a drilling sensation on my left arm below my short sleeve, Hawaiian shirt also, haha. And then what felt like a bug-like crawl was coming up under and on top of my sleeve, coming towards my shoulder. My heart raced, and I freaked out and slapped my arm so fast, and nothing was there that I know of. I never opened my eyes, but maybe it could have been a bug. But what was interesting was this weird lack of oxygen sensation beforehand. Any symbolism here or insight to this? Again, thank you guys for everything.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon that as we go into deeper meditative states, that the body systems start to become deeply relaxed. In other words, they slow down. So our breathing, and there's actually people who teach type of meditations and body control things to get the breathing so deep, and I don't want to say shallow, but so deep that it almost stops, to prolong. That's often what is happening when we go deeper into meditation, is that the body, because we're going so deep now, that the body gets more still, that in the stillness and that deep relaxation, we literally almost stop breathing. But then, of course, we need to. And if you're relaxed enough, the body will just, automatically breathe. But sometimes, and this is not, again, not uncommon, it still happens to me to this day, that when I get into that deep space and I can tell my body it's going to get to the point, and then when it does breathe, it's more like that, and it pulls you right back in and out of the experience. I know that part sucks because it just is what it is, though. It's just part of the physiology of the body that takes place with this type of meditation work that we do. And I can't say I have found any way to really change that other than, like I shared earlier, I just try to do the best I can to relax through things, but to keep centered at the seat of the soul and keep chanting the sacred name. Because the more I can find myself just relaxed but focused on the spiritual is often where I don't have as much with the body trying to pull me back like that. That I find the more I can stay focused in spirit, the body is usually calmer and just takes care of itself more and doesn't need my attention, or where it does a breathing thing like that. I literally just had this the other week, that I had a breathing where it pulled me back, but then I had another time where I stayed focused here and I literally went out of body because all I did was focus here, and it moved me right on past any of the body and physiology or breathing. That's why I say it's just over time you really learn how to refine that pinpointed focus. The more you can focus just on the spiritual, the least issues we have with the mind, emotions, and the physical body, such as the breath, like that. But it's very normal, very common for these types of things to happen with the body, especially around the breath.
Very much, yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of keep bringing your attention higher. Even when you realize maybe there's a bug on you or something, do what you can just to keep your attention focused inward and upward above it all. And oftentimes the body will just calm down. But if it's split, and there's a part of attention focused down and onto the body and what's going on, and you're focusing upward as well, it's easier to get distracted that way. So, do what you can and let it be okay, whichever way that might go at the moment. And don't judge it. Just recognize it for what it is and let it be okay.
So that was our last written in Q&A.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. Brian will be back in just a second, and we'll see how we want to move forward. Some very good questions today. I enjoyed all that. See if somebody else writes in a minute.
Is that the last question?
Yeah.
I'll give it a minute. There'll be another.
Here we go.
There you go. See, that didn't take too long.
Just waiting for you to come back.
Yep.
Oops. Aloha, Jim and Brian, Kelsey. Love you so. Today's meditation was awesome as I haven't experienced the purple light in a while, and I was just bathing in the light with great joy, peace, and gratitude today. I didn't want to come out and just stayed in it through break. Thank you. I wanted to share. I had an incredible inner experience recently as I've been doubling up on my meditations as the last few months for the first time in my life, I'm experiencing boredom and this weird curiosity of the world. I'm caught up a bit in that lower vibration in a different way as I am aware of it all and observing my bad choices and loving, accepting, forgiving, and moving forward. It's been a trip. I definitely feel that my curiosity to experience the world is teaching me as I've been experiencing the different frequencies of my choices. It's been a big science experience. It's been a big science experience, and I seem to be returning back to my sweet and simple life with greater appreciation. The recent inner experience was quite liberating as I began to feel myself lifting out of body and got excited to tears and gratitude as it's been a long time. Relaxing and chanting the inner names to allow for what is. I then experienced something take my left hand, and I think it's my dad, and I reassured him I'm okay. Then I feel two hands holding me down, and I realize this isn't my dad, this is Cal. And I roll over, and we both are on the floor, and Cal's in body form, a skinny, haole boy face down. Haole means white, for those that don't know Hawaiian. I look for a knife, and there on the floor is a steak knife, and I begin stabbing Cal many times in the back. There is no reaction in him. Then I crawl with my mask on my forehead to the neighbors. Their house is wide open, and I'm looking for them. They come home and are not even questioning why I'm in their house. They are just so calm. I say, call the police as there's an intruder in my home, and then I wake up.
Oh, that's to me a good experience of starting to empower yourself and getting free of the force that Cal is, that just one who creates fear. And in your house is symbolic of in your consciousness. So that, that is Cal is in our consciousness here. So to me, you stabbing him in the back or, whatever, multiple times even though it looks kind of violent, like you're trying to kill that, which in a way you are, that's also symbolic of really now completing the fear associated with that. And when you kill something like that, see, all these things we give life to in ourselves. So in this case, the way Cal showed up symbolically in this haole is a way that you have given life to whatever that particular fear that Cal represented in this experience. So that as you stab it to kill it is, again, just now completing the fear and taking back the life to yourself that you had put in that. Do you have anything to add?
Well, it's about empowerment because you're empowering yourself by taking action rather than just giving up or not doing anything. You took power in yourself to take action and handle the situation to protect yourself, to take care of yourself, to maybe try to complete by killing Kal, to have it done and over with. So to me, it is an action of empowerment, and it may be one of the lessons of empowerment that's there for you right now in your life.
Yeah.
That's how I would interpret it. It's a very good experience, even though it may sound or feel like it wasn't. That's actually a very good experience, and one that is liberating in the long term.
I mean, that's it, folks.
Okay.
For now.
Very good. Well, early evening, that's very fine. Well, thank you all very much for joining in, participating, asking questions, and just being present, having your bodies pay attention and be a part of all this energy. Anything for you, Brian?
I'm just waiting a minute. Usually some other email comes in right when we're ready to wrap it
He
up.
doesn't want to end. He never wants to end.
Yeah.
Be in spirit.
Usually one shows up right when we're wrapping it up. So if not, then we'll just keep wrapping it up then, I guess. All right.
I think it's done.
Okay. Wow. Continue.
Yeah.
All right. So we have another one that just came in.
See?
Dream. My dearest, I had a dream around a month ago, the last full moon. Jim was recovering from an illness, and I had to take care of him. Of course, I was wondering where y'all were since I got this privilege. I was looking down from above in a roofless house and rooms. After making sure he was comfortable, I had to go somewhere, no idea where. Then I was back to the room/house. I knew there was another guy that I had to take care of as well. I never saw the other guy. I told myself, you got to take care of them with exact love and care. We are all God, and he is the same as Jim. Jim turned to his side and looked at the moon. All I could see in his face was white light. So much gratitude for what y'all do for us. Much love, best regards.
Well, a lot of that's about you taking care of the spirit inside of you, your own soul. It wasn't so much about me outside, but about the soul inside of you. And the fact that there was a house with no roof or a room with no roof, to me means that that's showing you that inwardly, spiritually, you're opening up and getting free to move inward and upward in a greater way than before. And taking care of me in this symbolism is about you taking care of the spirit within you in a very affectionate, loving, caring way.
That's what I was going to actually share.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That was a very good
Very good.
experience. And thank you for taking care of me, which was you.
Is that it now? Okay.